Hey friends, it's Mary Giordano and welcome to Unapologetically Wild. Every single day, you have a choice. You can stay where you are, or you can step into the possibility of something even greater. And I'm here to spark that flame within you and inspire you to show up, embrace the fear, and do the fucking thing. Messy, scared, and real. Let's get started. Hey friends, welcome back to Unapologetically Wild. Today we're diving into something I hear from women all the time. About a year ago, I made an Instagram reel about this topic and the response was absolutely wild. So many people resonated with it and admitted that they too were struggling with this exact thing. And it got me thinking, this is clearly a hot topic and maybe it's something I need to explore even deeper. So I decided to make an entire podcast episode about it. And here we are. But before the recording, I posted a poll on my Instagram stories asking the big question. Do you feel like you've found your purpose yet? And the response, almost everyone said they're still figuring it out or nope, I'm still searching. And honestly, I get it. We're taught that purpose is this one big thing we're supposed to find, like some magical moment where everything suddenly makes sense and we just know we're on the right path. And for years, I chased this idea that if I just searched hard enough, reflected long enough, journaled enough, or followed the right steps, I'd finally find my purpose. Like it was some missing treasure waiting to be uncovered at the end of a rainbow or something. And guess what? That search, it just kept me stuck. It kept me feeling like I was falling behind while everyone else had it all figured out. If that sounds familiar, if you've ever felt like you're missing something, like everyone else has unlocked some big life secret while you're still searching, stick with me because this episode, it's going to change the way you think about purpose forever. Because here's the truth, you will never find your one true purpose. And before you freak out, please understand that this is not bad news. It's actually the best news you're going to hear today because purpose isn't something you find. And when you stop searching for purpose like it's a missing puzzle piece and start living purposefully instead, everything in your life will shift because purpose isn't one thing. It's not a perfect career, a single passion, or some big revelation you're waiting for. It's how you show up. It's the way you move through the world and the choices you make right now that align with what actually matters to you. And that's what we're breaking down today, why the whole finding your purpose idea is really just a bunch of fluff. By the end of this episode, you're going to learn what to focus on instead and how to start living a life that feels meaningful without waiting for some big divine sign. Let's get into it. So here's the thing. This whole idea that your purpose is something you have to find, it's probably the very thing making you feel like you're behind. Because when you're constantly searching, it creates this underlying belief that you're missing something, that you don't have enough clarity yet, that there's some big revelation waiting for you, and until you find it, you're just stuck in limbo. And it makes sense because from the time we're kids, we were asked the same question over and over again. What do you want to be when you grow up? It sounds innocent enough, but right from the start, we were conditioned to believe that purpose is tied to a job, a title, a career. That if we just search hard enough, we'll unlock the one thing we're meant to do. And if we don't, we feel like we're falling behind. How many times have you thought, I still don't even know what I want to be when I grow up, even as an adult? Think about it. When you talk to friends, family, or scroll through social media, you often hear or see people talking about how they found their passion, how they discovered their purpose. And it makes you wonder, what am I missing? Why don't I have that kind of clarity? And that's where the real damage happens. Because suddenly it's not just about purpose. It becomes about you. It turns into self-doubt, comparison, feeling like you're somehow failing at life while everyone else is out there living their big, meaningful, purpose-filled dreams. But what you need to understand is most of those people didn't find their purpose. They chose something. They took action. They moved toward what mattered to them, what lit them up, and they built a sense of purpose from that. So what if, just for a moment, you let go of the pressure to figure it all out? What if instead of chasing some big elusive purpose, you shifted your focus to how you're showing up right now. Because purpose, it's not a finish line you cross. It's not something you wait for or uncover one day. It's something you create in the way you choose to live, moment by moment. And when you stop waiting for clarity and start choosing to engage with what actually excites you, challenges you, and aligns with what matters to you now, that's when everything shifts. That's the real work. And that's exactly what we're breaking down next. So now that we've dismantled this whole idea of finding your purpose, let's focus on what actually moves you forward, because you don't need to find your purpose. You need to start living purposefully. And that starts with a mindset shift. Your purpose isn't a destination. It's a way of being. It's not something waiting for you out there. It's something you create right here, right now. Think about it. What if instead of obsessing over the one thing you're meant to do, you focused on how you want to feel, the kind of person you want to become, and how you want to show up in the world day after day? Because that's where purpose is actually built. Purpose isn't one big moment. It's in the small, consistent choices you make every single day. It's in the way you spend your time. It's in the things that light you up. It's in the impact you have, whether that's through your work, your relationships, or how you show up for yourself. And here's the part most people miss. Waiting for a sign is just another way of avoiding the discomfort of starting. You don't think your way into purpose. You create it by moving. You don't have to have your whole life figured out to start living purposefully. You just have to take small steps towards what excites you, what interests you, and what aligns with your values. Instead of asking, what is my purpose? Start asking these questions. What am I drawn to right now? What lights me up and makes me feel alive? When do I feel the most present? What kind of impact do I want to make today in this season of my life? The best part, once you stop searching and start moving, you'll realize something extremely powerful. Purpose isn't waiting to be discovered. It's something you shape with every decision you make every single day. Because the life you want, the one that feels meaningful, fulfilling, and true to you, it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by choice. So let's talk about the first step, because the biggest thing keeping most people stuck isn't a lack of purpose. It's overthinking to the point of paralysis. The more you analyze, the more you hesitate, and the longer you stay frozen in place. Purpose isn't something you think your way into. It's something you create through action. How many times have you held yourself back because you weren't sure if something was your thing? How often have you told yourself, I just need more time to figure it out? Let me tell you, more time isn't the answer. You don't figure it out by sitting still. You figure it out by doing, experimenting, and allowing yourself to explore without needing every single decision to be permanent. Think about it. When was the last time you learned something about yourself just by reading about it? Probably never. But when you actually did something, you took the trip, tried the new hobby, started the new project, you gained clarity, right? That's how this works. You don't have to commit to something forever to give it a shot. You don't need all the answers before you begin. And the next step doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be next. For example, let's say you've always wanted to try hiking, but you keep overthinking it. What if I'm not in shape? What if I don't have the right gear? What if I hate it? So you don't do it. Meanwhile, someone else who's equally unsure goes for it. They pick an easy trail, they borrow a backpack, and they just see what happens. Maybe they love it, maybe they don't. Either way, they now have more information than they did before. It's the same thing with anything, starting a business, switching careers, picking up a new hobby, traveling somewhere new. You cannot think your way into knowing. So instead of sitting in indecision, ask yourself, what's something I've been drawn to but haven't taken action on? What's one small step I can take today to explore that? Maybe it's signing up for a class, buying the supplies, or just scheduling the thing on your calendar. Whatever it is, make it real. Because clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from action. And the more you take action, the more you start to notice patterns, things that energize you, pull you in, and make you feel most alive. Which brings us to the next step. Pay attention to what lights you up. You know those moments when you're so immersed in something that time just disappears? When you're completely in the zone, in flow, and everything else fades into the background? Yeah, that's a huge clue. We're so used to looking for purpose in some grand life-changing revelation that we ignore the simple things that bring us joy, energy, and connection. What are the conversations that get you fired up? What do people always ask you for advice on? What's something you could do for hours and just not get bored at all? Because here's where so many people get stuck. Instead of simply allowing themselves to follow what excites them, they immediately try to assign it value. They wonder, how do I turn this into something productive? How do I make money from this? How do I justify spending time on this if it's not leading somewhere tangible? And that mindset, it kills curiosity before it even has a chance to grow. Because not everything that lights you up needs to become a side hustle. Some things are just meant to bring you joy, to fuel you, to make life richer. And ironically, the more you allow yourself to follow those sparks without strangling them with expectations, the more doors actually start to open. I know this firsthand because that's exactly what happened with my photography. When I was about 4 years old, I got my first camera. It was a little blue Fisher-Price camera that I still have to this day. I was obsessed. Growing up, I was always the person with a camera, capturing every moment just because I loved it. And when I moved to Colorado, it felt impossible not to take that love for photography even deeper. I was hiking and backpacking and exploring, and I always had my camera with me, documenting the beauty of all the places I was experiencing. I remember one particular trip. It was a 40-mile backpacking trip, and I lugged almost 20 pounds of camera gear with me because I could not leave a lens at home. But with all of that, I never thought of it as something to sell. Then one day I was working in the ER showing my charge nurse, Sandy, shout out to Sandy if you're listening, a few photos. And she just casually said, "You should sell these." I laughed and looked at her and said, "What? Really?" And she said, "Yeah, absolutely." And so I did. What started as just a hobby turned into me selling my photography on Etsy, hanging my artwork in coffee shops on Pearl Street in Boulder, in art galleries in Georgetown, doing art shows all across Colorado from Boulder to Vail to Frisco. My photography is now hanging in people's homes across the world. But here's the thing, it was never my main source of income. It was just extra money coming in while I was working full-time as an RN, doing something I was passionate about. And that's important because so many people think that if something isn't their big career move, it doesn't count. But purpose isn't about having one big, all-consuming passion. It's about integrating the things that light you up into your life in a way that feels right. It's like the person who starts writing because they love it, not because they think they need to sell a book, usually ends up writing their best work. The person who picks up photography as a hobby just for fun might one day find themselves getting paid for it. The person who starts learning a new skill out of pure curiosity often stumbles into unexpected opportunities. But all of that only happens if you let yourself follow what excites you without immediately trying to measure its worth. So instead of asking, how can I turn this into something profitable? Start asking, what if I just let myself enjoy this? What if I followed this curiosity without worrying about where it leads? What if I allowed myself to do something just because it makes me feel alive? The truth is, purpose isn't just about what excites you. It's about aligning those sparks with what actually matters to you. Because excitement alone isn't enough. You can chase things that feel fun in the moment, but if they're not rooted in something deeper, like your values, your priorities, the kind of life you actually want to create, you'll still end up feeling lost. And that's why the next step is about making sure your actions reflect what's truly important to you. Because noticing what lights you up is just the beginning. If you don't intentionally integrate those things into your life, they'll just stay as passing thoughts instead of guiding forces. So now you might be wondering, how do I start weaving more purpose into my daily life? Well, it starts with getting crystal clear on what genuinely fuels your soul. Think about the moments when you felt most alive, proud, or fulfilled. What was happening? What were you doing? Who were you with? Those moments give you clues, and often those clues point back to your core values, the things that matter most to you at your core. Because when your daily life aligns with your values, that's when things start to feel meaningful. Here are some values to consider. Adventure. Do you feel most alive when you're exploring, traveling, or pushing your limits? Authenticity. Do you value honesty, deep conversations, and showing up as your full self? Creativity. Do you feel your best when you're making something, whether it's writing, photography, music, or problem solving? Connection. Do you thrive in deep relationships, building community, or helping others? Freedom. Do you crave flexibility in your work, lifestyle, or choices? Growth. Are you constantly seeking to evolve, challenge yourself, and step outside your comfort zone? Recognizing what lights you up is one side of the equation, but just as important is understanding what drains you, because sometimes it's easier to pinpoint what feels off before we fully recognize what feels right. The things that frustrate, exhaust, or disconnect you, they're just as revealing as the things that energize and inspire you. That's why the next step is about taking an honest look at what doesn't align, because what you can't stand often holds the biggest clues about what you truly value. So ask yourself, what can't I stand? Sometimes knowing what we don't want gives us just as much clarity. So what drains you? What makes you feel frustrated or out of alignment? If rigid structure and predictability make you feel stuck, you might deeply value freedom and spontaneity. If small talk and surface level interactions bore you, you might value deep connections and authenticity. If working in a job that feels pointless makes you miserable, you likely value impact and meaning. Knowing what you value and, just as importantly, what you don't, gives you a roadmap. It helps you see where things feel off, where you're out of alignment, and what might need to shift. But know that awareness alone won't get you there, because at the end of the day, it's not enough to just know your values. You have to actually fucking live them. So that's where we put it into practice. For example, if you value health, but you're constantly skipping movement, eating like crap, and running yourself into exhaustion, you're going to feel disconnected and out of alignment. If you value connection, but you're always too busy to spend time with people who matter, you'll feel like something is missing, because something is missing. If you value adventure but keep playing it safe and staying in your comfort zone, you'll always feel that nagging sense that there's something more waiting for you. At the end of the day, purpose isn't just about what you do. It's about how you live. It's reflected in the choices you make every single day, the way you spend your time, and the things you prioritize. So ask yourself, are my daily actions aligned with what actually matters to me? Because when they are, that's when life starts to feel more intentional, more fulfilling, and more purposeful. So now that we've broken down how to align your actions with your values, the next step is taking full ownership of how you live. Because most people say they want a purposeful life, but when it comes down to it, they're waiting for the right time, waiting for clarity, waiting for some external permission slip to start living the way they actually want to. But no one is coming to tell you, hey, now's the time to start living with some fucking purpose. At some point, you have to decide. Are you going to keep waiting for the perfect circumstances, or are you going to create them? Are you going to keep blaming your schedule, your job, your obligations, or are you going to find ways to integrate more of what matters? Are you going to keep searching for the one thing that makes your life meaningful, or are you going to start living in alignment with what lights you up today? Know that living purposefully doesn't mean quitting your job tomorrow or making some massive life overhaul. It means taking radical ownership of the small choices you make every single day. So ask yourself, if I say I value creativity, am I actually making space for it, or am I just wishing I had more time for it? If I say I value connection, am I prioritizing my relationships, Or am I letting busyness be my excuse? If I say I value growth, am I actively challenging myself, or am I just waiting for opportunities to come to me? See the shift? It's not just about knowing your values, it's about taking full ownership of whether or not you're actually living them. And here's where so many people get stuck. They know what they want, they know what matters to them, but instead of taking action, they tell themselves they'll start later. They'll start someday. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start when I have more time, I'll pursue that when I have more money, I'll focus on what I love when things slow down? But let's be real. How long have you been saying that? How long have you been waiting for some perfect moment that never actually comes? What if you stopped waiting? What if you started making space right now in whatever way you can? Because the life you want, the one that feels aligned, meaningful, and purposeful, doesn't just happen. It happens when you take ownership, when you stop waiting, when you decide that this season of your life right here, right now, is just as worthy of purpose as any other. So the question is, what small action can you take today to start living more in alignment with the life you actually want? Instead of waiting for the right time, decide that now is the right time. Not someday, not when you're ready, right now. Because most people aren't living a purpose-driven life, not because they're incapable, not because they haven't found their purpose, but because they've settled for whatever feels safe, comfortable, expected, familiar. They tell themselves, once I figure out my passion, then I'll make a change. Once I know exactly what I'm meant to do, then I'll commit. Once I feel ready, then I'll take the leap. Purpose is not found in the future. It's built in the present. You don't discover your purpose like some hidden treasure. You create it through how you live, the choices you make, and what you choose to prioritize. It's in the things that light you up, the moments that energize you. It's in aligning your daily actions with what actually matters to you. It's in taking full ownership of your life instead of waiting for permission or a perfect plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to wait for some big revelation. You just need to start living purposefully today. So let me ask you, what is one thing that lights you up? One thing you've been thinking about doing but putting off. Whatever it is, take one small step toward it today, because this is your life and it is happening right fucking now. Thanks for tuning in today. If this episode hit home, subscribe and share it with a friend, because together we can bring more women into this wild, unapologetic space. Remember, waiting until you feel ready is the fastest way to nowhere. So show up, embrace the fear, and do the fucking thing. And don't forget to subscribe to my Unapologetically Wild Chronicles. The link's in the show notes. Until next time, stay wild.